Hey, Donnie Smith here, and welcome to my DIY auto body and paint channel. On this channel, we learn how to repair cars, paint cars. We're even doing stuff like bed liners. I'm working on a jet boat, just all kinds of things. So if you haven't subscribed, be sure to stop by my channel and subscribe. In this video, I'm going to show you how to install a light bar, the steps we took to install this light bar on a 2007 Nissan pickup. This is the full version video where I'm actually going to demonstrate, and it's a little bit longer if you're just wanting to see the steps and that's all. I've got a short version video to this that goes just through the steps, and I'll put a link down in the description that you can click and watch that video. Well, let's get started and see the steps that we took to install this light bar. Okay, so the first thing that we did is we went ahead and attached the brackets to the light bar. That way when we put it up on the roof, we could see where the brackets was going to mount, and we could mark the location so that we could drill the holes. So we went ahead and set it up there, got it positioned where it looked like it fit good, and we marked the brackets of the holes, where it meets the roof at. And on this Titan, it happened to land in the drip rails where it was at. And also note that I'm making sure my windshield wipers work. I mean, you want to do that. The last thing you want to do is, get this thing mounted and then realize your windshield wipers hit it or anything like that. So make sure all that works properly before drilling the holes. And the second step that we took is we was going to drill the hose. We used a small drill bit followed by the desired drill bit size. Just using a small helps you make sure you're centered in the hole. You don't want to be off-centered in here. That might cause a problem when you go to bolt the bracket up. And another thing to note, make sure that you don't drill all the way through, the roof. The headliner's underneath there, so you don't want to drill through the headliner. So make sure, that you're not drilling all the way through like that. Now, I was going to spend more time in this video talking about the nut certs and how to install them, but I tried to install one and it did not work on this pickup. This drip rail has quite a bit, about 1/4 of an inch of seam sealer that seals over that seam there, and this would not work. We couldn't get them to work because of that seam sealer. So we had to go to our backup plan and use nuts and bolts. But the thing with that, we're going to have to get to the back side now, so we're going to have to slightly drop that headliner. So since we couldn't get the nut certs to work, for us anyway, we went to plan B, and that's to drop the headliner. Well, we didn't drop it all the way out, just a little bit where you can get access to the back side for the nuts, so we can tighten them up. We had to take this handle off of the A pillar, because also that cover right there, the interior trim on the A pillar, we want to remove that because that's kind of holding the headliner up there. Those are 10mm bolts, so we remove those. And once we get that removed, you just gently pull on that interior trim and it'll pop off. You'll also have to take this weather stripping off, and now you just grab this, it just clips, gently pull, and that will come off. And also, to drop that headliner a little bit, we had to take the sun visor off, and these got little covers on over the where the screws are at. You just pop those off, use a Phillips screwdriver, and that'll take that sun visor out. This added a few extra steps to the install on this Nissan, but that's all we could figure out. That's just seemed easiest just to go ahead and do this. But if you have a better solution, or maybe you could do it from one side and not have to get to the back side, be sure to leave us a comment, so others can learn about that as well. So, I mean, there's always someone always has a good idea. There's lots of great ideas out there, and I'm not saying this is the only way. This is the way that we decided to do it. So anyway, we had to take the sun visor off, and there's also a handle over there on the side that we're going to have to take off. I think I'll show that here in a little bit. Sorry about the sun's kind of beaming through there and you can't see real good, but you can see I'm taking that handle off now, and that's also 10mm bolts. But that's the thing about video, and sometimes you can't really tell what kind of quality you have until you go to editing, and you didn't realize that the sun was kind of blinding that right there. So anyway, just get those few things off, and then we can lower this headliner a little bit, just enough to where we can reach a ratchet and socket to the back side and be able to tighten those nuts whenever we go to get those off. And this piece here, it just pops off, and then it'll push out. It's clipped in there, so pretty easy to get out. But I didn't take the center part of that upper console out, you know, I just left that in there, and that gave me enough access to be able to get to the back side and tighten these nuts up. I don't know why it got a little bit out of focus there, but that's enough. Just to, you don't want to break the headliner or bend it, tear it or anything, but just enough to get back there to tighten up those nuts. And the next step we took is we used some silicone and we applied that to the holes, and we also applied some to the back side of that gasket that's going to go on there. And this just helps seal everything off so that we don't have to worry about leaks. Now the Nissan, it took a few more steps, a little bit more difficult than the GMC that we did. I don't know if you watched the video where we installed a light bar onto a GMC. It bolts onto the A pillars, but the way this Nissan is designed, it's wider up top. You can't use those type of brackets. It has to mount to the roof like this, and also having to use nuts and bolts made a few more steps, but overall it wasn't that bad. And next, we just place the gasket and the bracket in place, and we drop the bolts in through the holes, and then that way we can go through the other side, the back side, and put the nuts on and tighten this up. So the next step, we went ahead and put the nuts on and snugged it up first, and then we tightened it secure. I've got a couple of pictures right there, the front view and rear view, just so you can kind of see where those locations are at. Now here's a little trick I use quite a bit. I'll just lay a piece of tape over the socket, and then I'll push the nut in, and that creates a tight fit, and that way kind of I'm having to go up in there and fish that in there just a little bit to tighten it up, having to get it through that headliner. That way the nut doesn't fall out on you. It stays right there, and it works really good. Okay, I'm just going to speed this up a little bit, but I basically just snugged those two nuts up, and then I tightened them. Okay, I really couldn't figure out a way how to run this down my pillar or by the windshield. Just wasn't going to work for this pickup. So I had to drill a hole in the roof to run this wire. So I followed the same procedure of using a small drill bit to get kind of a pilot hoe, and then I followed up with this bigger drill bit to drill through. And also keep in mind, you know, that the headliner, you know, you kind of want to have that pushed down a little bit so you don't drill through the headliner. That's all you want is great big holes stuck in your headliner after you get done drilling. So make sure of that. The next step is to apply some silicone to the grommet and then insert it into the hole. Now what I did is I just bought an assortment of these grommets. They're really cheap. I'll put a link down in the description. And then you find one that fits the wire really tight, and then drill a hole, you know, accordingly to the size of grommet you got. You should select a grommet that fits really tight, so you're going to have problems pushing this through the hole without just pushing the whole grommet through. So what I do is I get a little bit of dish soap and I put it on the cable just to help lubricate the cable so that it will slide through easier. I just wipe it on the wire, and then I will push that through, and it makes it slide through nice and easy. And once you got it through, what I did is I washed it off a little bit with some water to get all that soap off, and then I applied some more silicone around the grommet and the cable just to help make sure that everything's sealed and nothing leaks. And then once we had it ran through, we pulled it and ran it down the A pillar. Now the next step, I don't have much footage because I was kind of in the way of the camera's view, but you want to run that from the engine compartment into the passenger compartment, and there's a hole right there in the fender that you can fish that through. And I usually fish wires through using like a coat hanger, a wire coat hanger, or oxyacetylene welding wire, or something that's kind of stiff, and you can tape it to there and kind of push it through, and it makes it a lot easier in trying to push that flexible wire through that area. Now that you've got the harness ran from the engine compartment into the passenger compartment, and you've got the light bar harness ran from the roof down through the A pillar, you can put some connectors on there, some electrical connectors where they'll plug in, and then just plug them together. And then usually I like to, just to make sure they're insulated real well, I like to tape everything just to make sure, just to give a little bit extra insulation. Now, once again, I decided to go ahead and speed up this process just to make it a little faster, but you know, get your ends on, plug them together, and then use some tape, or I use some tape, just to make sure everything's insulated well. Now, this is one of those clips where I was in the way, couldn't see it real good, but I need to remove this lower panel. And this is where I'm going to put the switch, because I've got an open switch there that I can use. Now it comes with the switch and you can place it anywhere you want. This is just where we decided to place it. So there's 2 Phillips screws down there on the bottom where those arrows are at. It uses Phillips, remove those, and then you can just gently pull on that panel and it'll release the clips and you can take that panel off. Next, I just drop the wires from the A-pillar area down back behind the dash, and then I can hook those up. This switch here has like a dummy switch, you know, it's just to fill the space because I didn't have a switch there. And I can take that out and you can buy just a generic switch that's real cheap. You just push and it snaps in there. And then you hook the wires to that switch and you pretty much got this done. Now all you have left is to run the wires under your engine compartment. Just hook the ground up to a ground, hook the positive up to the positive battery. You know, use some zip ties to make the wires look nice and neat. Put your interior trim panels back on and you are done. So we took a little bit of footage. It wasn't that dark yet. I mean, it's still kind of light, but kind of excited to see how it was going to work. Makes quite a bit of difference. And you can see with them on there. And kind of look at that sign, how well it lights that up. You don't realize how much it lights up, even with it being light like this, makes a big difference. We went to the lake, and you can see how it's shining out there. I also, you know, do this test run so I can adjust them. I think I need to adjust this light bar up a little bit. I think it's shining down on the ground too far. This is Jordan just goofing around. So, but anyway, I think I'm going to adjust that just a little bit higher, and then call it done, call it good. And just took a couple of pictures of the pickup. I've had some questions about that, you know, wanting kind of an overall view of what it looks like. As always, I really appreciate you for watching this videos. If you liked it, be sure and like the video. Also, be sure and go to our channel. If you like what you see, subscribe to us if you haven't done so already. Thanks again for watching. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.